This story was narrated by VidCrew Media. Please show your support by like and subscribe. Thank you. Looking at Adonis, I knew he would refuse, but something told me that I had to talk to this lady. Before Adonis could say anything, I stood up and nodded. Come, we will go somewhere private, and no one will follow us. I glared at Adonis, who glared right back at me. His eyes never left me as I left the room with the lady. He would be pissed, but I would deal with that later. It wasn't important. I walked down the stairs and noticed the lady's eyes constantly darting around. Her hands were shaking. An uneasy feeling settled in me, but it made me more determined to figure out what the fuck was going on. Once we reached a secluded room of the palace, we entered and I shut the door. Behind us, there was no one around, so we should be safe here. I sat down and motioned for the lady to sit down too. She gave me a small smile and sat down opposite me. First, I want to say how sorry I am for the loss of your child. I wish that I could have woken up and saved her. I shook my head. No, please don't blame yourself. We don't blame you. It's our fault for not listening to the warning. She wiped a tear that fell. Warning? What warning? I asked, my eyebrows raised in confusion. She sighed before replying. A few days before, a man came to our house, claiming he was from the palace. He told us he knew that my husband had a criminal record and he had applied to be a guard at the palace. He said that they'd never accept him because of his record, but said he could help us if we help him first. I told my husband not to accept, but he did because my husband desperately wanted the job. This man told us that we had to sneak into the palace and put something in the food. He claimed the food was going to the prisoners, and he wanted one of them dead, but couldn't do it himself because he was well known. It just didn't sit right with me, but my husband agreed. The man told us if we don't do our job, he will know, and we will pay the price with the lives of our loved ones. My husband did sneak in. However, he couldn't bring himself to put whatever that was in the food because he didn't know what it was, and he began to have doubts. The very next day when we woke up, our daughter was gone, and we knew that man took my daughter and killed her. The poor lady burst into tears, and my heart hurt for her. What a vile and disgusting man. But who was this man? Hearing what the lady said increased my doubts that this man must be someone who knew the palace very well. But who? That's why you were nervous coming here. That's why your eyes kept darting around. I questioned. Yes, I'm afraid he is here. The lady trembled with fear. The sick bastard who made this poor lady feel like this would pay. How sick can someone be, taking a helpless child and killing her in such a violent manner? You'll be safe here. Nothing will happen to you. I held her hands. Can you tell me what he looked like? Any small detail will help, I asked, being careful not to ask her too many questions. I don't remember much, but I do remember he had a scar on his face. It looked like claw marks going across his eye. She shivered. Well, that piece of information was definitely valuable. How many people have claw marks across their face? I was just about to thank the lady, not wanting to press her for any more information, when the door opened. Adonis stormed in and asked, what about the color of his hair? His eye color? How tall was he? The lady looked at me with fear in her eyes. She jumped up and muttered, I've said too much. He'll kill me. He'll kill me. She rushed out of the room in a hurry. Shit, that was not meant to happen. I glared at Adonis and said, what the fuck was that about? This was meant to be a private conversation between us two. When did you decide to join? Adonis scoffed. I wasn't about to leave my maid alone. I only heard the last bit, but I need more information. He turned around, but I pulled him back and growled, you just ruined everything. Didn't you see how terrified she was when you decided to storm in with all your questions? For once in your life, couldn't you just do as you're told? Sometimes there are things you are not needed for. I am the king. I am always needed. I don't understand why she would tell you everything and not me. Adonis shook his head. My anger was not calming down. Because, Adonis, you are scary. You are the king, and these poor people were scared of you. That poor lady wanted to talk to someone who would understand her, and that wasn't you. But you just couldn't handle that, could you? You had to interfere and ruin everything. I would have gotten the information if you could control yourself. Adonis glared back at me. I say the orders, not you. You obey my rules and I obey your rules. You know what? Go fuck yourself. Good luck getting the information out of that lady. Your Majesty, I mocked. I didn't wait for Adonis's reply as I stormed off. My anger must have been radiating off me as servants moved out of the way and looked at me in worry. I stormed past Adonis's office where all my friends were. Nia looked at me, concerned, but I paid no attention. You tell your king that he better not come anywhere near me, I said, loudly of course, because I wanted Adonis to hear. Evan and Gabe looked at each other in worry, while I stormed toward my temporary room and slammed the door shut, causing things to rattle. How dare he say those words to me? I won't let him treat me like that. He needs to learn that he isn't always right. Adani Malha the line. But he needs to understand that and times there actually know better. He isn't always fucking right. I heard him before I saw him. The door was locked as he turned the doorknob and growled out, "Fine, you want to play that way. I'll just break this damn thing down," Adonis growled. Oh no, he doesn't. Before he could do anything, I opened the door and glared at him. You think breaking down this door will do you any favors? You messed up big time, and now you have to fix it. Breaking down this fucking door won't help you. Adonis looked flustered as I slammed the door shut and locked it. Maybe you should grovel like a human, and I may forgive you, I yelled. Adonis didn't say anything after that, probably realizing how angry I really was. Good, this would teach him a good lesson. Today was another eventful day, and not having Adonis made me feel lonely. But he wasn't going to know that. So, I decided to have a shower. It would be a good way to relax and take my mind off Adonis and his shit for some time. I took my time in the shower, letting the hot water relax my muscles and temporarily forget my problems. When I finally decided to come out, I quickly got changed and exited the bathroom. No sign of Adonis yet. Was he still thinking on how to apologize? A knock at the window made me jump. Was that Adonis? Why would he be coming from the window? I walked toward the window and opened the curtains. There was no one there. Shit, was I imagining things? Just as I was about to close the curtains, something fell and dangled in front of my window. My heart sank and I gasped. No, no, no. This wasn't happening. My feelings must have been powerful enough for Adonis as he barged through the door and looked for me. My eyes were filled with tears as I pointed outside the window. Adonis cursed and ran his hands through his hair. This was all my fault. This time, it was on me. Adonis moved me away from the window, but I kept staring at the head that was dangling. The head of that poor lady. The poor lady that was so scared of being killed, and I promised her she would be fine. I broke that promise. She was murdered, just like her daughter. Adonis sat me on the side of the bed and knelt down. Don't you dare blame yourself. You weren't to know this was going to happen. I promised her she would be safe. I looked at Adonis. He wiped the tears away and called for Gabe and Evan. Both looked solemn as they stared out the window. This doesn't look good, Dimitri, Gabe said. I know. I am well aware of that, Adonis spat out. Go and find where her head is hanging from. And where is the rest of her body, Adonis ordered. Both nodded before leaving. Adonis sat next to me and tried to hold my hand, but I moved it away from him. Someone has it out for you. We need to know why and fast. I sighed. I have a lot of enemies. Little one. Adonis shook his head. Well, for now you just have one. And we can't waste time. He needs to be found before more innocent people lose their lives, I replied. Adonis nodded. You're right, as always. I am the one who always messes up. Is that your way of apologizing to me? I asked. It depends. Has it worked? Adonis questioned. No, I bluntly replied. I didn't think it would. Sometimes I say things I don't mean. I was worried when You left with her. I just couldn't deal with the thought of anything happening to you. Adonis looked at me. You need to trust me, Adonis. If I really were in trouble, you'd feel it. I touched his chest. I trust you, but I don't trust others. He sighed. That is something that you'll have to work on, but some other time. Now we have important issues to deal with, I replied. Someone is trying to undermine my rule, trying to prove that I am not capable of being king, Adonis growled. So, prove to them that you are. Prove to them that they messed with the wrong king. Show everyone who Adonis Dimitri Gray really is. I looked at him. Adonis smirked, his determination showing in his eyes. I feel sorry for whoever thought they could mess with Adonis because they have another thing coming. The steely determination in Adonis's eyes never left as he grabbed my hand, and we left the room. Of course, I was still angry with him, but this mate bond was making it harder for me to stay mad at him. We made our way back to his study, where Lexi and Mia were still both sitting down. They jumped up when they saw us and looked at Adonis, worried. Adonis paid them no attention as he strode straight to his desk and picked up his phone. Bring Luke here now, Adonis demanded. He looked at Lexi and Mia. You both go and get your mates. Neither of them said a word, but just nodded and left. I guess they felt Adonis's anger and didn't want to provoke him. Adonis didn't even give me a chance to sit down. He pulled me down so I was sitting on his lap. Me being angry, I tried to get up and leave, but Adonis held me down. Fucking strong mate, this novel will be daily updated. I couldn't leave his embrace. Adonis growled and said, if you keep moving like that, I won't be responsible for what happens next. A Lycan only has so much self-control when it comes to their mate. Oh shit. I immediately stopped moving and felt heat rise up my cheeks. Images of Adonis taking me over his desk invaded my mind, and I swore this was not the time to be thinking about that. I shook my head to try and clear the images from my head. The last thing I needed was to be distracted by my dirty mind. It didn't take long for everyone to join. Adonis's study was big enough for everyone, so I decided to get up off his lap and sit down next to Nia. Being near Adonis was not working out well for me nor my body. I knew he was angry with my move, but he didn't say anything. Luke and Sophia joined us this time. Luke's solemn face told me all I needed to know. Sophia held onto her mate's hand, probably comforting him after what just happened. Enough is enough. This idiot has played his games with us, but it's time we show him who he messed with, Adonis growled. Evan and Gabe both nodded in agreement. Nia grasped my hand, and I took a deep breath. Luke, did you figure out if any of your men saw anything? Adonis asked. They said there was only one guard who they didn't recognize. He had a scar on his face. Luke looked angry. Scar, a scar. My heart was racing as 7 pairs of eyes turned to look at me. Scar, that looked like claw marks, I muttered under my breath. Arya. Nia looked at me, confused. The lady. She told me the man who threatened her had a scar that looked like claw marks on his face. It has to be the same guy, I replied. Adonis gripped the side of his desk. Both Evan and Gabe looked at Adonis, concerned. Luke stared at the wall, silent, but his grip on Sophia's hand had me concerned. Dimitri, could it be? Gabe started. No, it's impossible. Adonis cut Gabe off. I think you need to check. Gabe tried again. What was going on? Check what? I looked at Luke, who looked tortured. I saw his pain reflected in his eyes. Why was he in pain? My gaze found Adonis's, who looked at me and then sighed. He picked up his phone and held it to his ear while it dialed. Gabe sat down next to Lexi, who held his hand. Evan looked at Nia. He wanted her comfort. Nia looked conflicted, but I knew Evan needed Nia. So, I stood up and motioned for Evan to take my seat. He looked at me, grateful, as he took a seat next to Nia. I looked at my mate, who was glaring a hole in the wall. The tension in the room was evident, but why I was still unsure about. Adonis glanced at me and held out his hand for me. I took his hand, and he pulled he to his side, holding onto me for dear life. It felt like hours when, in reality, it was minutes before someone answered. Adonis tightened his grip on me, and he asked a few questions to the person on the phone. Suddenly his grip loosened, and he turned away from me. Are you telling me the truth? Go and look again. Adonis was breathing fast. The answer he got clearly pissed him off as he threw his phone at the wall, making all of us jump. The phone shattered into tiny pieces. Bastardo! Adonis ran his hands through his hair. I looked at Gabe and Evan, who both looked angry. What was going on? Fanculo, Kel Bastardo Fuggy. He paced the room. Fuck, that bastard escaped. Dimitri tends to talk in Italian when he is extremely pissed off, Evan said. Even though it was the wrong time, I couldn't help but thinking how hot Adonis sounded when he spoke Italian. Your reaction tells us all we need to know. Gabe shook his head. But how? How could this have happened? Evan looked confused. What is going on? Who are you talking about? I asked. Adonis whipped his head around so fast I thought he would break his neck. He strode toward me and picked me up. Knowing he was angry, I decided it was in everyone's best interests if I didn't move or piss him off even more. Adonis buried his face in my neck and took deep breaths. Non ti portera via da me, he muttered. He won't take you away from me. I don't know what you are saying, Adonis. I sighed. How the fuck can this happen? Adonis growled, lifting his head up and looking at everyone. We are just as confused as you. Gabe shook his head in disbelief. I am still clueless over here. I tried again. Sots. Adonis paid me no attention as he placed me on his desk and stood between my legs so I was facing the opposite way to everyone else. Fuck no. I wanted to know what was going on. I pushed Adonis away, jumped down from the desk, and made my way over to the other side. Adonis let out a groan of frustration, while Evan and Gabe look amused. I know it's the wrong time, but this is funny. Evan smirked. I agree. Your mate is headstrong like you, Dimitri. Gabe laughed. Damn right I am. So, you will tell me what is going on. I glared at Adonis. Don't forget I am still angry with you, I added. That is girl code for you better tell me what is going on if you want me to forgive you. I know that. Evan looked pleased with himself. Oh, yeah. How do you know that so well? You angered a lot of girls. Nia raised her eyebrows. Huh. No, that's not what I mean. Evan stumbled over his words. It was clear Nia was just messing with Evan. Her eyes twinkled with mischief, but poor Evan was clueless. Instead, the poor guy was struggling to find the words to explain to his mate what he meant. Evan, she was just messing with you. I laughed. Nia laughed. Your reaction was the best. You were just messing with me. Evan looked dazed. Wow, my mate is a joker just like me. Evan had a massive grin on his face. Yes, but she's much better than you. She actually makes us laugh. Gabe patted Evan on the shoulder. We all laughed. But our little moment was short-lived as Luke stood up and banged his hand on the desk, causing a few of us to jump. Enough. Now isn't the right time to be laughing. We have serious problems too deal with. Arya, you being mad at Adonis or being nosy isn't helping. Some things aren't meant for you to know. The room suddenly went silent, and I took a step back. I had never seen Luke so mad, and his words felt like a personal attack against me. You realize that you sound like a spoiled brat not getting what they want. Luke shook his head at me. His words cut deep and made me think, was I really acting like that? Luke, Sophia exclaimed, pulling Luke away and sitting him back down. I'm sorry. I didn't know that's how I was acting. I shook my head, disappointed in myself. Sorry. Why the fuck are you sorry? He should be sorry for talking to you like that. Adonis spat. Everyone was silent as Adonis glared daggers at Luke. My gaze found Evan and Gabe's, who were looking between Luke and Adonis in wonny. Luke stood up. She doesn't get to know. It's none of her business, and it isn't like you were dying to tell her anyway. She has a name, and it's Arya, and she is your queen. Show her the respect she deserves. Adonis gripped his desk. I know that, and I knew her before she was queen. I am telling you this as your friend. I don't want her to know, Luke said. Enough, Adonis yelled, breaking his desk in half. Holy shit. Evan pulled Nia and I away just in time as pieces of the broken desk flew everywhere. Evan had me and Nia in his hold as we all stood there shocked. My mate, my queen, will know everything, and if you don't like that, then you can. Fuck off. Adonis walked over to Evan, who let me go. Adonis pulled me into his embrace. My heart was still racing 1,000,000 miles per hour. This novel will be daily updated at, and I couldn't believe what I just witnessed. Me dispious amor mio, Adonis whispered. I'm sorry, my love. I am hoping that means you're sorry, I guessed. Adonis nodded, and I sighed. Gabe, get someone to clean this up. I dragged Adonis out, and everyone else followed. This day was just getting worse. It needed to be over. Adonis looked at everyone. I think we need to continue this conversation. So, let's go to my second study. You have a second study? I asked. Of course he does. You don't want to know how many desks he used to break. Evan shook his head. Adonis ignored Evan, and we all made our way to the second study. As soon as everyone was comfortable, Adonis cleared his throat. I will tell everyone what they need to know. If anyone has a problem with it, then they are more than welcome to leave. Adonis glared at Luke, who kept his head down. This guy with a scar across his face is someone we know. He was someone close to us all. Everyone loved him. But he went mad. Mad after realizing he wasn't going to be a Lycan with power. A mad Lycan is dangerous. Their human side is lost, and they destroy everything in their path. This man was Luke's brother, and the scar on his face was caused by me. Adonis sighed. No one said anything as the words sank in. Luke had a brother. No wonder he didn't want anyone to know. Luke looked down, ashamed, as Sophia comforted her mate. He was taken away and locked in a cell deep underground. None of us could kill him because we all loved him at one point. Adonis rang to check if he was still there, but he escaped. It confirmed our worst thoughts. He is out, and he is coming for us. Evan finished off. What made him go mad? I asked. Power, or lack thereof. He wanted to be a Lycan with power, but Adonis never gave him what he wanted. He was angry that his younger brother got given a title, but he didn't have one. Luke replied. I never gave him a title because I knew he was reckless, but I still cared for him like a brother. But one mistake of mine caused a lot of bloodshed. Adonis shook his head. My brother won't stop till we are all dead. In his mind, we are the reason he was trapped in that cell. What worries me now is that we have mates. He could do anything. Luke looked at Adonis, concerned. Adonis, you heard what that lady said, though, didn't you realize? I questioned. I didn't want to believe it was the same person. I guess I was in denial until we were all in the study. Adonis sighed. What's his name? Nia asked. Bradley. Luke looked pained as he said his brother's name. Luke stood up. I have to warn my parents. Adonis nodded. You go. Luke walked away with Sophia, and we all sat there in silence. Everything is messed up. Evan looked distraught. Remember, he isn't the same person we used to love as a brother. He is a madman. This novel will be daily updated at, and he probably has no humanity left. We need to be vigilant at all times. Adonis looked at both Gabe and Evan. Keep your mates close. Do not let them out of your sight, he added. Gabe pulled Lexi closer to him, while Evan just stood close to Nia, making sure he wasn't making her uncomfortable. I think that's enough for today. We all need to meet here tomorrow morning and discuss our next steps. Adonis dismissed everyone. Nia squeezed my hands before leaving with Evan close behind. It was just me and Adonis left now. I looked at him. What now? I asked. Now, we rest. I think that is the best thing after today, he replied. Don't think I am still not angry with you. I rolled my eyes. He smirked. I want to see how long you can last. We made our way back to our room and got ready for bed. My eyes looked at the window where that poor lady's head was hanging from, and I shuddered. Nothing will harm you while I am here. Adonis wrapped his arms around my waist. His presence calmed my racing heart. and I breathed a sigh of relief. Come, let's get into bed. Adonis led me away from the window. I got into bed, but before I could get comfy, I turned to Adonis. Since when can you speak Italian? I asked. Since I was a little kid, Adonis replied. Okay, so when were you going to tell me? I pressed. It's not a big deal that I speak another language. Lots of people do. Adonis looked at me like I was crazy. I have to learn Italian. So I know what you're saying. I made a mental note inside my head. That's what this is all about. You just want to know what I'm saying. Adonis smirked. Sarah divertente. This is going to be fun. What did you say? You better not be making fun of me, I warned. Guess you'll find out when you start learning Italian. This novel will be. Daily updated. Adonis grinned and pulled me toward him. Enough talking. I just want to hold you tonight. Adonis sighed. I got comfy against Adonis, snuggling into his warmth. This was what I needed. What we both needed. Times are going to get tough, aren't they? I said. Yes, but nothing will happen to you, Adonis replied. I know. I'm a lichen now. I laughed. That you are. But you need training. We will have a session tomorrow. Adonis burst my bubble. I don't want to, I mumbled into his chest. Training means an early wake-up call. Early wake-up call means I have to leave the comfort of my bed, and I was not prepared to do that. Adonis chuckled. My queen needs to be trained so she can look after herself, which means I will wake you up. Great. I don't know if I'd survive training with Adonis. My lichen was already pushing me to mate with him, and seeing him training last time did things to my body. Shit. I better not think about this because Adonis might not be able to control himself. Fine. I sighed. Adonis smiled. Sleep now. As soon as he said those words, my eyes felt heavy and my body suddenly felt exhausted. Guess it was time to sleep. I yawned and snuggled into Adonis, who tightened his grip around me, and that's how I fell asleep in the arms of my king. And again, hit harder, Adonis shouted at me. Sweat was dripping down my forehead as I sighed and hit the punching bag again. You might be wondering what was going on. So was I. Adonis was true to his word. He woke me up early and carried me to the training room. Since it was just the two of us, I could wear a sports bra and shorts without worrying about Adonis ripping some guy's eyes out. He really pushed me to my limits and beyond. With no breaks and constant training, my body ached. But Adonis continued to push me. Right now I was practicing building up my strength, hitting this punching bag continuously for 20 minutes while Adonis stood in the corner and shouted at me to hit harder. Really made me wish that he was this punching bag. How satisfying would that be? He wasn't my mate right now. He was my trainer. His face was void of any emotion, which made it harder for me to even try and get out of training. This Adonis took no shit from anyone, so I was stuck. Wiping the sweat from my brow, I turned to Adonis. 5-minute break? He narrowed his eyes at me before replying. I'm timing you. Thank fuck. I ripped off the gloves and collapsed on the floor. My body wasn't used to this much training. It wasn't that I was unfit or anything, but who really liked training for hours on and when you could be in bed watching TV? 5 minutes is up, Adonis shouted, causing me to jump up. Erg, why did that go by fast? Stupid time always goes past slowly other times, like when you've finished your exam. Of course, when you want it to go slow, it never will. Gloves on. Let's go, Adonis yelled. Groaning, I picked up the gloves and resumed punching. This time I imagined the bag to be Adonis because right now he was not in my good book. I hit the punching bag repeatedly before it fell off and spilled everywhere. Oh, shit. I don't think that was meant to happen. Good, next exercise, Adonis said, moving away from the wall and toward me. I was meant to do that. One part of me wanted to question him, but the other part refused just in case he decided to make me hit another bag. Fighting stances. Your lichen may already be a great fighter, but you need to be a great fighter in your human form, too, Adonis explained. Damn him. telling me I am not a good fighter, I mumbled. Did you say something? Adonis asked. No, I replied. I want you to copy the stances I show you. Okay, he said. I just nodded, wanting this training to finish. My body was all sweaty and gross. I needed a shower ASAP. Adonis spent almost an hour on fighting stances, how to block and dodge. Everything hurt, but I refused to tell him that. Didn't want to seem like a wuss. Easier said than done though. Okay, that's enough for today, Adonis announced. I let out a large sigh. Okay, cool. Bye. Finally, shower time. Get these gross workout clothes on and get into my comfy clothes. I couldn't wait. Where do you think you're going? Adonis pulled me back to him. He now had a smile on his face and tucked a piece of hair behind my ear. I pushed him away. Oh, so now you smile. What happened to Mr. Emotionless? Standing there, shouting at me every time I didn't hit the punching bag properly, or I ran too slow, or my speech was cut off as Adonis pulled me down. So we both ended up on the floor. I gripped his shoulders and glared at him. What was that for? To get you to shut up. He smirked. Whatever. I'm leaving. I rolled my eyes. Nope, you're staying here. Adonis wrapped his arms around me. But I'm a sweaty mess, I complained. I don't care. He shrugged. I couldn't be my usual self around you. How would you ever get anything done? Adonis sighed. I was now confused. If it was up to me, I would have taken you upstairs and had my way with you. When I saw you first come out in this outfit, I had to become Mr. Emotionless so you could actually train, Adonis explained. So basically you stood there all serious because you were horny. I laughed. I'm always horny around you. Adonis kissed my neck. Fucking hell. What was he doing? His lips traveled up my neck until they met mine. The urgency of the kiss caused me to moan and gave Adonis the opportunity to slip his tongue into my mouth. Adonis, someone will see, I panted. No one will interrupt the king. He smirked. Cocky bastard, I mumbled before Adonis captured my lips again. I broke the kiss this time, needing time to catch my breath. But that didn't stop Adonis. He trailed kisses down my neck. His lips seemed to like the spot where my neck and shoulder met. Fuck, I groaned, wrapping my hands in his hair. I felt him smirk against my skin. Fuck you, I will, very soon. That sounded like a promise, and I shivered. Underneath me, I felt his bulge growing and smirked. Well, two can play at this game. Granted, I had no idea what I was doing, but I hoped it would have the desired effect on him. Adonis was too occupied to even notice when I subtly changed my position and started grinding on his impressive bulge. God, who knew this felt so good? I felt my core getting wetter every second I carried on. Adonis let out a groan against my neck, causing me to grind against him faster. If you don't want this to end up with you lying in my bed naked, I would stop. Right now, Adonis sounded like he was tortured. My mind was foggy with desire. I couldn't think straight. All I wanted was Adonis, and I wanted him now. So, I paid no attention to his warning, and instead grabbed his hands and placed it on my waist. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "What if I don't want to stop?" Fuck. Adonis wasted no time lifting me up and almost taking the door off its hinges. Oh God, I think I awoke the beast. Dimitri, your room is fixed. Now Gabe called. Adonis didn't even acknowledge his friend, and instead growled, "My floor is off limits." Guards moved out of the way as Adonis made his way back to our room, slamming the door shut and dropping me on the bed. I didn't even have time to dwell about what occurred here last time as Adonis looked at me with a predatory glare in his eyes. "There's no going back now. You've said those words. I will take you, and I will mark you." His husky voice made me clench my thighs together as I felt my core become wetter. Adonis closed his eyes and groaned. Here I am trying to stay in control, but you keep getting more turned on. Heat rose up my cheeks, and Adonis wasted no time ripping off his shirt and pants. "Do you know how hard you make me? All this teasing of yours made it so hard not to rip your clothes off and shove my cock into your tight entrance," Adonis growled. Holy shit. I never knew dirty talk would turn me on that much. Adonis grabbed my hand and pressed it against his bulge. See, all this because you're a little tease. Adonis bent down and nipped my ear. Not my fault you can't handle a little bit of teasing, I managed to get out. I can't handle teasing. I think we should see if you can, but not now. I have no patience, Adonis whispered in my ear, wrapping his arms around my back so he could undo my sports bra. Unfortunately, it wasn't a proper bra. It had to be pulled over my head, and Adonis had no time for that. Instead, he ripped off my bra and flung it to the side. Stupid thing was in my way, he mumbled, leaning down and capturing one of my breasts in his mouth. I gasped and closed my eyes, relishing in the feeling of Adonis devouring my breasts. Suddenly I found myself wanting more, wanting Adonis too. Give me that pleasure only he can. Adonis, I breathed. He stopped his assault on my breasts and looked up at me. My eyes were filled with desire. What is it, baby? What do you want me to do? Adonis looked at me. My brain struggled to formulate the words. Show me, baby. Come on, show me, Adonis whispered. Held his hand and placed it on my core, which was covered by my soaking wet shorts and underwear. A devious look took over his face as he crawled down, so he was face to face with my core. You want me to make you cum? No words were coming out of my mouth, so I just nodded. Adonis smirked and ripped off my shorts and underwear in one motion. All you had to do was ask, my love. His tongue wasted no time in licking my soaking wet core. Fuck, you're so wet, he groaned into my core. Adonis's tongue was magical. I was a moaning mess as his tongue swirled around my clit repeatedly. I clutched his hair, pushing him deeper into me, desperate to feel that release I so wanted. His rough strokes, bringing me closer and closer until he noticed this and grabbed my hands, looking up at me. No more, baby. This is your punishment for constantly teasing me. He smirked. What? He can't leave me on edge like that. I was about to open my mouth when I noticed him pulling down his underwear. Time for the main show, baby. He licked his lips. Geez, my throat dried up at the sight of him. He was massive. How was that going to fit? Adonis sensed my nerves and kissed me slowly. It'll be fine. Keep your eyes on me. My gaze was locked onto his hazel eyes as he slowly entered me. My eyes automatically closed, and Adonis growled. Open your eyes, Arya. I want to see you as I take you for the first time. Forcing my eyes open, they locked onto Adonis's gaze. He grabbed my hands and pinned them above me. Now that his member was in, I moved against him to get him to move. Adonis, fucking move, I growled. He didn't need to be told twice. Adonis moved slow at first, but I watched as his muscles tensed. Clearly, this wasn't his cup of tea. Since my hands were still above my head, I decided to wiggle to get his attention. I said move, Adonis, I growled again. This time he got the hint. His thrusts became faster and harder. He let go of my hands, and I used them to pull him down to my lips. Fuck, fuck, fuck. You feel so good, Adonis groaned. Oh God, Adonis, don't stop. I felt my release building up. Never, I'll never stop. Adonis thrust into me faster. Shit, I groaned. Come on, baby, let it go, Adonis said, his lips attaching to my neck. Oh, fuck. Adonis, I yelled as he bit into my neck. At the same time, I felt my juices spill out of me as Adonis swore and his seed filled me. Adonis collapsed next to me and pulled me closer to him. I will never get tired of that. Of what? Having sex? I asked, yawning. Of seeing you cum all over my cock. And it's not sex. We made love. Adonis pecked my lips. Guys, are you serious right now? Evan's voice shouted. It reeks of sex. Why am I the one who always has to get you? He complained. Both Adonis and I looked at each other and burst out laughing. Glad you find it funny, but we said we would meet, remember? I'll tell the others. It'll be a while, Evan grumbled before walking off. I did specifically say no one is allowed on this floor. His fault. Adonis shrugged. As musi as I ul wahol lu leave yul yuku, of all was yuji, vilau yumis to do. I looked at Adonis, who sighed. Fine, let's shower together. I squeaked. Saves water that way. He grinned, picking me up and carrying me to the bathroom. An hour later, we were showered and ready. Obviously, Adonis delayed the process by saying he couldn't get enough of me. So we ended up spending a lot more time in the shower than needed. I was tired and sore down there, but the seriousness of the situation kept me awake. Both of us made our way, hand in hand, to his study. Finally, Evan said as soon as we walked in, "You're finally marked and mated," Lexi squealed. "Yeah, so exciting." Evan rolled his eyes. This time I hit him round the head and laughed. "You're only sour because you'll be the last to mate." Gabe laughed and looked at Adonis. "I'm happy for you, but be careful. These girls know how to use their bodies against us." Lexi laughed and replied, "I'll teach you my tricks, Arya." Adonis just rolled his eyes and pulled me close to him. Seems like someone was extra needy today. Luke walked in with Sophia. Both looked solemn. Sophia glanced up at me, and her eyes narrowed before winking at me. Of course she knew. "So, plan?" Luke asked. "Yeah, plan." Evan trailed off. I glanced around at the men. All their faces had a pained look. It was clear that this was hard for them. After all, Bradley was one of them, and they all cared for him. "Guys, we need to think about that little girl who was murdered. We aren't catching your friend or your brother Luke. We are catching a criminal who needs to pay for his crimes." I looked at the four of them. All the men looked at me before nodding. "Right? First things first. I want the soldiers' training to be harsher. They have to be prepared for anything." Adonis looked at Luke. "Done," Luke replied. "Warn the surrounding packs. Make sure they keep a lookout. Warn them he is dangerous." Adonis looked at Evan and Gabe, who both nodded. This was probably the wrong time, but Adonis looked hot giving out orders. I think my wolf was still horny. "Warn our mates' packs too." "I am not risking anything," Adonis added. "My pack? Shit, Carter. He will not be impressed when he hears the news, especially since I haven't told him of the events that occurred recently. We know this sick bastard. He will make the first contact. Only then will we really know what he wants. Until then, be vigilant. Our mates will stay by our sides. If you see anything suspicious, warn me immediately," Adonis warned everyone. "I should go and start the training process," Luke said, standing up. "Arya is training with me, but the others need to train too." Adonis looked at the girls. "Sophia and Lexi will train with me and Gabe." "Nia," Luke looked at Evan. "I'll train Nia." Evan nodded. Our first training session went really well. Ended up with the two of us mating. I rolled my eyes. Maybe I should train with the others so there are no repeats of today. Everyone stood up and walked out of Adonis's study. I noticed Nia was looking at me. Her eyes were telling me something. "Adonis, I'll meet you in a bit. Nia and I are just going to talk." I walked over to Nia. "Stay on our floor. I'll go with these two to warn your pack," Adonis replied, kissing me on the forehead before leaving. When everyone was out of earshot, I dragged Nia to one of the rooms. My room reeked of sex, so it wasn't the best place for a conversation. "What happened?" I asked. Nia glanced at me before looking down at her feet. "Did something happen? Did Evan do something?" I pressed her. "No, he didn't do anything." She seemed like she was sulking. "Are you upset that Evan didn't do anything?" I questioned. "Yes. When I came here, I was terrified. So he kept his distance. But now I feel this need, like I have to be constantly with him. I want him to always stay by my side." The other night I tried to kiss him, but he stepped away, saying that I would regret it in the morning. Nia huffed. "Nia, he is scared. Evan doesn't want to do anything that will cause you pain. He still blames himself for what happened to you. Plus, he is such a nice guy that, even though he is desperate to mate with you, he'll never push you," I replied softly. "You think so?" "He's refusing me because he is scared," Nia asked. I nodded. "If you really want something out of this relationship, then tell him. Sit him down and tell him." I thought it was too soon after to be thinking like this. That's why I was ashamed. to tell you, but me and my wolf, we've healed so fast since being here. Evan helped so much, always making me laugh and always respecting my space. Nia sighed. Why you would think I would judge you is beyond me, but let me tell you this. There is nothing wrong with wanting something more with your mate. Like you said, he has healed you, and you should make good memories with him. Just talk to him. He will understand. I smiled. Nia smiled back. God, that's a weight lifted off my shoulders. Now what about you? Me, I asked. You're a mated lichen now. I can't believe Dimitri waited that long. Nia laughed. Well, he respected me. It feels so weird to carry his mark on me. I feel like even being away from him for 1 minute is too long. I shook my gross newly mated lichens. Nia playfully responded. That'll be you one day, I teased. Nia rolled her eyes and laughed. We made our way out of the room and were walking toward where Adonis was when Evan met us. Good chat? He asked, his gaze on Nia. Yep. We had a really good chat. I smirked. Nia shoved me before saying, I was thinking about training. Yeah, that's so weird. I was just going to explain to you what will happen. Evan smiled. Well, okay then. Bye, lovebirds, I yelled as Evan and Nia walked away, chatting. Nia turned around and stuck her middle finger up. I laughed and made my way back to my room. The state of our room made me blush. Tom clothes everywhere. Sheets were a mess. Thinking about this afternoon, Adonis whispered, bending down and kissing my mark. When did you get back? I tried to turn around, but found myself stuck in his grip. Adonis never responded, but instead picked me up and threw me on the bed. Round 3. His devious smirk appeared on his face. Before I could say anything, his lips captured mine and his hand slipped down my underwear. Guess we weren't getting out of bed today. 2 weeks had passed, and so far, nothing. No threatening calls. No messages. No more dead bodies. That made Adonis more on edge. In his mind, he felt as if Bradley was testing him. If he let his guard down even for a second, Bradley would attack. Needless to say, this Adonis hasn't been pleasant all the time. Mostly he supervises the training and yells a lot. I know the pressure is getting to him. He feels responsible and doesn't want to let his people down. My life, well, it has been eventful. As soon as Carter got the phone call, he rang me up. Smiley, what the fuck? Why did I get a phone call telling me to watch out for some madman? And why haven't you told me what happened? Carter sounded unimpressed. Carter, I'm sorry. It has just been crazy around here. I sighed. You know, I heard about you passing out and changing into a lichen from Dia, who heard it from Nia. And the time you went all psycho and tore some guy's arm off. Carter answered. Not my finest moment. I cringed before continuing. Look, it's been hard. 1 minute I'm a werewolf, and the next I am a lichen. My head hasn't been able to wrap around the fact. And just when I get settled, something happens. You know I'm always here for you, right? I want regular updates now. One every week, Carter demanded. Okay, Dad. I rolled my eyes even though he couldn't see. Smiley, save that for the bedroom, please. I heard the amusement in his voice. You gross. You're disgusting. I shook my head to clear that moment from my memory. Carter chuckled. Oh, Smiley. I miss you lots. I wish you were here, but I also know that you're so loved by everyone there. After all, you saved their king from a forced mating. Yeah, I replied. You are happy there, right? I don't care if your mate is the king. If he's making you unhappy, then I'll bring you right back here. Although I'm not too sure I want to deal with an angry king. Carter trailed off. Be quiet. I am happy. It's just this whole situation with Bradley means Adonis is more on edge. I sighed. He needs your support. Smiley, don't forget he has the whole world on his shoulders. Some council members are just waiting for him to slip up so they remove him from the throne. Carter explained. Yeah, and when I find out who they are, My fist will meet their face, I growled. See, that's what he needs. Someone on his side for once. You guys are perfect for each other. Now look after yourself. Smiley. Carter said his goodbyes. That phone call was 5 days ago. Since then I had remained by Adonis's side, while he tried his best to prove to me that he was fine. Training was awful, although I was definitely getting better. Thankfully there was no repeats of our first training session. Adonis was a harsh trainer, but I felt myself and my lichen becoming stronger. Adonis also wanted me to resume my studies to become a pack doctor, and although I desperately wanted to, it wasn't the right time. I decided to study part-time instead of full-time and do online classes. It wasn't ideal, but it worked well for me because it meant that I could always be here for Adonis, and that was the most important thing. In good news, Nia and Evan's relationship had significantly improved. Now Evan was happier and no longer complaining. Well, he didn't complain as much. It was clear to see the two of them were happy, and seeing that was all I needed. After everything that happened with Nia, I just wanted her to be comfortable and happy. Nia was slowly transitioning into a lichen, which she was excited about. Evan was a little worried, probably thinking something might happen to Nia. Nia brushed aside his worries, but Evan still remained close to her. Right now I was sitting with Lexi, who was teaching me all about using my body to my advantage. I decided this lesson was needed because a certain someone was always touching me and always wanted me in bed. All lichens are the same, horny bastards. That's why I decided that us ladies had to have a few tricks up our sleeves, Lexi said. You got that right? I nodded. Right? Anyway, you have to use that amazing body of yours to your advantage. It's clear Adonis is crazy for it, so use it against him. Seduce him and leave him on edge. Don't give him the satisfaction and he'll drop down on his knees and give you whatever you want, even if that is no sex for a few days, Lexi explained. So this knowledge is from previous experiences, I'm guessing. I teased Lexi, who blushed bright red. Maybe, but how else was I meant to know if it worked? She pouted, causing me to laugh. Before I was able to say anything, I spotted Gabe standing behind with a devious smirk. He came behind Lexi, picked her up and threw her over his shoulder. Sorry, gotta show my mate that my charms are irresistible. He winked at me. Lexi gasped but started giggling. Oops. Adonis joined us and looked at Gabe with a knowing look. These men and their one-track mind. You can't resist my charms either, little one, Adonis whispered. Don't get too cocky now. It may backfire. I pushed him away. Gabe and Lexi were about to make their way upstairs when Nia and Evan made their way down. Something was different about Nia, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Wow. Congrats, bro. You're finally mated. Maybe now you'll complain less. Guess. We all have Nia to thank since she's had such a good effect on you. Everyone is so grateful. Nia, Gabe teased. No way. Nia was now mated, and she was a lichen. How did it take me so long to notice that? Evan rolled his eyes and replied, fuck off. Nah, I'm gonna fuck Lexi instead. Gabe laughed, causing Lexi to gasp in horror. He saluted and left with Lexi protesting the whole way. Nia came over to me, almost shyly, and I couldn't resist the temptation to tease her. So, mated and a lichen. You sure do work fast. Arya, Nia complained. What? As if you expected me to stay quiet. It's a golden opportunity to tease you. Plus, it's payback for all the times you teased me. I stuck my tongue out, playfully. Wow, who knew the queen was so mature? Evan rolled his eyes. Don't talk about being mature. You're the most childlike male I have ever met, I retorted. Evan's eyes widened in shock as Adonis just laughed and patted Evan on the back. Don't mess with the queen. Evan muttered something like, lesson learned. Touts knows felicitations. Adonis smiled. Congratulations. Merci mais pourquoi tu parles en français? Evan asked. Thanks, but why are you talking in French? Adonis chuckled. Regarde son visage, l'est en colère. Je l'aime. Look at her Face, she is angry. I like it. Tu takwings tun compagnon. El va ti tuer Evan warned. You're teasing your mate. She'll kill you. I coughed really loudly, getting both men's attention. French. You know French too. I glared at Adonis. How did you know? Evan answered. I learned basic French in school. But French, I thought you only knew Italian. I threw my hands up in the air. Little one, when you've been alive for as long as we have, you have the time to learn many languages. Italian is my favorite since I am Italian, but that doesn't mean I don't speak any other languages. Adonis had a wicked grin on his face. Just as I was about to reply, Nia pulled me and whispered in my ear. Slowly, a devious smile took over my face as I turned to my mate, who now looked confused. Stay confused, Adonis, because you aren't going to know what hit you. Pain galit latiki ki soth kilavid kia. I smirked as both Evan and Adonis looked at each other in confusion. You messed with the wrong girl. Kaya hua. Pain sacha thakai op kival exia dik basha bol sekate hain. Nia stood up and shook her head. What happened? You thought only you could speak more than one language. What? What are you saying? Evan asked. Kaya. Apaka matalab hai kai op samaj nahan sekate kai main kaya ka rahahun. I dramatically said, feigning shock. What? You mean you can't understand what I'm saying? Little one, please. What are you saying? Adonis looked at me. Both Nia and I glanced at each other before bursting out into fits of laughter. Miri basha sikang ki lai opik paz hamesha akachi bot hai. I walked over to Adonis and patted him on the shoulder. It's a good thing you have forever to learn my language. A look of recognition passed over Evan's face. You're speaking in your mother tongue. Yep. The look on both of our faces was priceless. How the tables. Yep. The look on both of your faces was priceless. How the tables turned. I laughed. So, you were teasing me? Adonis asked. Maybe, but you so deserved it. I stuck my tongue out. Will you tell me what you were saying? He questioned. Nope. I pretended to think about it. Nia will tell me, Evan announced proudly. Oh, really? So you'll tell me what you and Dimitri were talking about before. Then, Nia raised her eyebrows. For the right price? Evan wiggled his eyebrows. I watched as Nia smirked and walked toward Evan, kissing him on his cheek and trailing down to his lips but never kissing them. No sex for a week, Nia said, leaving Evan flustered. What? No. I'll tell you, Evan yelled, causing Nia to laugh and me to shake my head in amusement. Adonis looked at me and said, may just have to take a page out of Nia's book to get what I want. Oh, yeah. You think I'm going to be the one who can't survive without sex? It's the other way around. I stuck my tongue out yet again. Stick your tongue out one more time. I dare you. Suddenly the atmosphere seemed more charged as Adonis's eyes were filled with lust. Oh, I knew that look. I could do what he said, but where is the fun in that? Seeing him get all worked up caused me way too much fun and enjoyment. Right, and that is our cue to leave you two lovebirds alone, Evan announced, dragging Nia away. Both Adonis and I were too focused on each other to realize. His eyes followed my every move while my body tingled with excitement. My eyes looked all over the place, trying to find a way out or some way I could easily escape Adonis. After all, it had been a long time since he had chased me, and this time I was much stronger. Adonis noticed this, and he licked his lips, thinking of running. My queen, maybe my king. I smirked. I do enjoy the chase. Be careful, little one. Soon you'll be pinned under me with no means of escape. His eyes pierced my own. I shivered with anticipation, watching his every move. I walked toward the exit and got ready to run. But before I did, there was something I had to do. In a flash, I turned around and stuck my tongue out before darting off. I heard Adonis's growl as I pushed my body to run faster. Feeling the wind on my face was heavenly, and it had been a long time since I could run this freely. This would do both Adonis and me so much good. Adonis was catching up to me, but unlike last time, I wasn't going to give up so easily. I used the same technique as last time, running in different directions, but at the same time I was looking for a good hiding place. That's when my eyes found a large tree. I had never managed to climb one before, but it was now or never. Much to my surprise, I grabbed onto the branch and managed to swing myself up. Holy fuck, I actually did it. As I was catching my breath, I heard Adonis and clasped my hands over my mouth. God, he looked so hot. I couldn't help but admire him from here. His muscles were tense, and his plump lips looked so inviting. Snap out of it, Arya. You don't want him smelling your desire when you did so. Well, at hiding, Adonis rushed in a different direction, and I let out a sigh of relief. Hi, yes. Finally, I managed to fool him. Again, he came back and looked around, confused. It was at that moment an idea popped into my head. It was time for Adonis to get the shock of his life. Taking a deep breath, I jumped down from my hiding place, causing Adonis to jump in shock. He lunged forward to catch me, but I landed on my feet while he lay by my feet with his arms outstretched. I fooled you. I burst out into laughter. Adonis scowled and stood up, brushing off the dirt. So, you thought that was funny? His voice was void of any emotion. Immediately, I stopped laughing. Maybe I went too far. Guess it's time for your punishment. In no time, his devious smirk was back and I gasped. Adonis. He wasted no time in picking me up and throwing me over his shoulder. Such a caveman, I muttered. Only a caveman for my very naughty mate, Adonis replied. In a flash, we were back at the palace, and Adonis was walking back to our room at a leisurely pace. Once we reached our room, he dropped me on the bed and smirked. I've got you right where I want you, and we have all the time in the world. He licked his lips as I made my way up the bed. The sexual atmosphere turned me on. I couldn't lie, especially the look in Adonis's eyes. He was so going to devour me. Lexi's tricks won't get me out of this one. Before Adonis pounced on me, the door banged open to reveal a very flustered Evan. Dimitri, the phone. He's on the phone. The atmosphere did a complete 180. Adonis's lust-filled eyes and devious smirk were replaced with cold black eyes and a serious enretchian. I jumped up off the bed and looked at Adonis in worry. Evan looked back and forth between Adonis and me. Within seconds, Adonis let out a loud growl and stalked toward his study. Fuck, what the hell was going to happen?